Earlier this afternoon, I was watching the World Cup. Qatar, Senegal, various other countries from around the world. 32 countries out in Qatar at the moment. 32 countries out competing. One thing missing from it, which passes almost without comment. Where is Palestine? Where is the Palestine nation? Where is the Palestine national football team in the midst of this great global jamboree of nationalism and the celebration of activity and the celebration of sport? Once again, as so often in all sorts of aspects of our lives, the life of the globe generally, you see that the Palestinian people have simply been erased. It's as if they don't exist. You go right round sort of all the flags, dignitaries visiting, listen to the chants, and rarely do you hear, if ever, I don't know if anybody here has heard it in the last couple of weeks, of anybody mentioning in all the coverage of Qatar that there's one team not here, that the Palestinian team is missing. And that in a way is symptomatic and symbolic of the way the Palestinian people have been treated by the world over recent years. Treated by the world because it is not in the interests of the most powerful countries and the most powerful people in the world to allow for the existence of the Palestinian people. The existence of the Palestinian people is a challenge to imperialism everywhere in this world. If they admit the Palestinian people as rightful, equal members of the international community, then from that there would follow judgments on the legality and the legitimacy of all sorts of other states who have used Palestine for bombing runs, that have been testing out weapons of mass destruction and all the rest of it down through the ages. You know, when we think about Palestine, when we think about anywhere, we've got a habit in Ireland, and it's not necessarily a bad habit, but as we compare their situation to our own, I suppose everybody does that in a way. Every country does it in a way. But we compare the suffering of the Palestinian people to the suffering felt and experienced by generations of Irish people down through the centuries. In a way, there's a truth in this, but the truth in this is a relatively small truth compared to the suffering of the Palestinian people right now. We shouldn't get sentimental over our own situation when we look and see things that are 10 and 20 and 100 times worse in Palestine. You know, I can remember, I've been looking for a connection, but Wolfe Tone in his pamphlet, well worth reading still, an argument on behalf of the Catholics of Ireland. Wolfe Tone wrote, describing the situation of Catholic peasantry in Ireland, he said, young Protestant gentlemen break their heads for sport. And that summed it up. If you look at the Middle East now, you can see that young Zionist gentlemen break the heads of Palestinians for sport. The difference between now and then is that now the whole world is watching and still does nothing about it. And that's what makes demonstrations like this, small as they might be, make them very necessary. That we must do what we can do. Even if this is all we can do, it's worth doing to bring attention of our own people and our own city and our own world to what has been done to the Palestinian people. One of the best journalists that Ireland has ever produced was Erskine Childers. Not Erskine Childers, the president. He was a cousin of the President Erskine Childers. But he was the BBC correspondent in the Middle East during World War II and afterwards. And he wrote in 1951 in the Radio Times, the BBC's official publication. Erskine Childers wrote, giving his summation of what was happening then at the beginning of the 1950s, just 3 years after the Nakba, the disaster. He wrote about Palestine. He said, if you go among them today, referring to the Palestinian people, if you go among them today, they will say to you, look, through the barbed wire, over there, beside those trees, that is my home. And it is still their home. And it's a shame in the face of the world that the Palestinian people, all these years later, are still as far from home as ever. This is a blot that is in the face of the world. It falls to our generation, anybody around to listen to us, to remove that blot and to do our bit to deliver at long last freedom to the Palestinian people. That is why we are here, and we shouldn't think that because we are not numbered in thousands that we are not having an effect. Back in Palestine, back in Nablus, back in Jenin, you'll find that people know that there are those of us around the world who have not forgotten and will not forget. And we pledge ourselves again, when we fight for freedom for anybody, including ourselves, if we're not fighting for the Palestinian people, then we are not fighting to free the world. Free Palestine and free ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for coming, and it's a bit of a chilly one tonight, but